afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Bayou Bets here on bet.NOLA.com for Monday, April the 18th. Zach Ewing with Spencer Urquhart. Jim Derry will be along in just a few minutes. He's having a few computer problems, but he will be with us. We're glad you can be with us, and we are talking some NBA playoffs today, some Pelicans, and then we will also transition into some football because even in April, we all like football. The USFL gets started. The New Orleans Breakers are 1-0. They've never lost a game in their history. How about that? What are the odds? We'll tell you. And we also have some NFL draft props from Caesars Sportsbook to get to later in the show. Now, speaking of Caesars Sportsbook, we are brought to you by Caesars Sportsbook, and they do have a special offer for our listeners. You can get your first bet, if you're a new user, your first bet insured up to $1,100. Use our promo code NOLA CZR, or just go to NOLA.com/Caesars, and that will be automatically loaded for you. So your first bet, anywhere up to $1,100, you bet it. If you win, you just made a bunch of money. If you lose, you get another crack at it. They're going to put that money back in your account, and you can bet it on something else. So that is the deal from Caesars Sportsbook, and we appreciate their sponsorship. We appreciate you taking your sports betting patronage that direction. Spencer, a lot to talk about. I guess, since the last time we were here on Thursday, we didn't know for sure that the Pelicans would even be in the playoffs. So I guess it's good news. They won Friday. They beat the LA Clippers in just a fantastic game and got into the playoffs. Of course, the bad news is they faced the Phoenix Suns, who, really took them to the cleaners last night. The game did get close there briefly, late third quarter, early fourth quarter, but ultimately the Suns take care of business. There's Jim. Jim's got his drink. Jim's got his computer working. And Spencer, look, they're in the playoffs. You want to fight against that happy to be here feeling, but it does feel like that just a little bit.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I was really impressed by their second half performance. They started off pretty slow. First half, they were getting blown out. And then the second half, they came on strong, had a nice third quarter. In the fourth quarter, Chris Paul happened. Not much you can do about that when he decided to take over. But I wasn't too upset. I mean, they almost covered. They lost by 11. Spread was 10.5. So showed pretty good effort. Hopefully they can continue to build upon that for game 2 tomorrow.
Yeah, and as Barry said, I mean, I say they're fighting against the happy to be there. It was just one game. They didn't play very well in the first half. And the Suns, by the way, last night it was Chris Paul. Tomorrow night, it very well may be Devin Booker or DeAndre Ayton or Michael Bridges. They're a good team with a lot of good players. So my question to you, Jim, is a week from now, when we do Bayou Bets next Monday, are the Pelicans still playing, or are we doing a postmortem? Do they get at least one game and extend this series back to Phoenix?
Well, I'm glad I missed the first 2 minutes of Overreaction Monday. I mean, they just finished playing 2 play-in games that were life or death while – the Phoenix Suns have been working on defensive strategies. I mean, who knows? I mean, the Suns are the best team in the NBA for a reason. I think we're overreacting to what we saw the first half of last game. I saw it all over social media. The spells don't belong, and who knows? I mean, I don't think anybody knows what we're going to see in game 2. I don't think anybody knows what we're seeing in game 3. I think they're going to win a game or 2. I don't think they're going to win the series, but I think they have a chance to compete. And I don't think that no matter what, if they would have won, it'd be a different story. Had they won yesterday, had they come back and they got to within 6 and found a way to fight through and win, and Chris Paul doesn't go off. And I mean, we'd be overreacting the other way. And I'd be saying the same thing. I mean, there are a reason why these things are 7-game series, because you can't judge teams by one game, I don't think. And especially after everything that the Pelicans have had to go through the last week to just make it to this point when no one thought they would make it here in this game. So, I mean, let's start overreacting. Barry, better luck next time. You want to write them off? Write them off. I'm not writing them off. This team has been fighting all year long. It's like Willie Green said. They didn't come here just to show up. And I don't think they have that mentality. I don't think they're going to play in game 2 like they're here just to show up and be happy. I don't think they're going to play in any game like they're just happy to be there. So the answer to your question is I think they will win a game or 2. And if they don't, it's still not overreaction to say that they're not playing like we're happy to be there. So I think we're just going a little too far based on what we saw last night.
No, that's fair. That's fair. And I mean, listen, if I had been just predicting exactly how last night's game was going to go, I think it would have been the opposite. Like, hey, the plucky Pelicans hang around in the first half, and then by the time the fourth quarter rolls around, their legs are a little bit tired. They just flew to LA 2 days ago, played a hard 60-minute or 48-minute game on Friday night, and then had to turn around and play the Suns, who, as you said, have been resting all week. And that's where that will show up, is once the Suns rust, it's not. And instead, it was the opposite. I mean, so you got to give the Pelicans credit for fighting through into the fourth quarter, making the Suns play their starters all 48 minutes. And as Spencer said, just damn near covering the spread for those who bet on them. In fact, their last possession, they had a couple of chances at tip-ins and missed them, which was a problem all night, to be fair. Jonas Valanciunas couldn't make a layup. He had 25 rebounds, partly because he kept rebounding his own misses. He's like 5 of 19 or something. Like, that's bound to get better, first of all. But anyway, if they make one of those, then they're down 9, and would they foul the Suns? I mean, you can't predict exactly what would have happened in that scenario, but that was the difference between them covering and not. So tomorrow's game, very similar line. The Suns are 9.5-point favorites. So it's ticked. Yesterday's line closed at 10. This one opens at 9.5. Over-under's a little bit down after a low-scoring game. Jim, you say you kind of see a bounce back coming from the Pels?
I just see fight. And this is a team that's think about it. This is going to be the first game in a week that they play that they didn't have to travel the day before or before a game. And it's a big difference to have a day off. And I'm sure they're not going to do much today. They might have a little shoot around or something, but they need a break. They need rest. I mean, you think about the emotional and physical struggle that they've been through. Brandon Ingram alone, going through hamstring issues, fighting through, playing more than I thought he would play in any of these games so far. So he needs a day off. It wasn't a surprise to see them shoot so poorly in the first half, again, because of the physical and emotional things that they've been through. So I would be surprised if they come out and lay an egg. I'd be surprised if they get blown out. So I will be taking the Pelicans in this game. I like the over as well. I know both teams play pretty decent defense, but I think that that number is a little low. And I think also people will be judging by what they saw in game one. And had the Pelicans not shot so poorly in the first half, they would have gone well past the total. And we'll see if the Suns come out with the same intensity they came in game one. You got to remember, they had a week off, a little over a week off, and their fans were ready to get fired up for game one and get into something. So now that they're settled into the series, I expect these games to be a little bit closer, especially for the Pelicans team that has been, again, fighting for the last 3 months of the season.
A couple of interesting odds from Caesars on the Pelicans-Suns series. Now, the Suns are huge favorites to win the series, of course, but you can actually handicap the series. You can get Suns minus 2.5 games. So are they going to win in 5 or fewer games? That's minus 240, I believe, minus 220 or minus 240. And then for the Suns to sweep is plus 150. So the Suns still less than even money to sweep. So the odds say, okay, the Pels will win 1, but they're not going to get it back to New Orleans for Game 6. And I think that's where we're probably all at right now. If we had to predict, Spencer, if there's something that could change this series and maybe extend it into a 6th or 7th game, what do you think it is for the Pelicans?
Oh, shoot. I would see. I mean, you can't ever predict the injuries, but that would probably be it. If the Suns would suffer a key injury, like with Chris Paul or Devin Booker, which they have had injuries throughout the year. Chris Paul had missed a chunk of games down the stretch, but he looks 100% now, so I highly doubt that'll happen. But I definitely think the Pels steal at least one game here, one of the ones at the Smoothie King Center. And who knows, like Jim said, they show a lot of fight. So it would surprise me if it goes 5, but it wouldn't shock me.
And that is that's where we're at. I mean, they're huge underdogs. Look, they are. I do think this is a discussion maybe we have when the series is over, but they've laid a foundation now. I mean, you can see – and honestly, if you've been paying attention to this team, you could see it ever since the trade deadline. There's something here, Jim. And when you add Zion Williamson to the mix and you add a top 10 draft pick to the mix, that something is only going to increase.
I agree. I mean, this is a team that, to me, is going to probably be, barring something strange happening, I think they have an excellent chance to be in the top 4 next year, and sort of playing a role that maybe the Suns played last year. And now you look at the Suns, who are a year removed from the NBA Finals, and how much did they gain from the experience that they got last year and gelling together as a team? And I think the Pelicans are going to be kind of going that situation next year. And who'd have thunk that 3 months ago when we were just standing around wondering what their future was, if they'd ever win? And we didn't give enough credit to this young coach and how he was, obviously the CJ McCollum trade made all the difference in the world, but just didn't give enough credit to the coach. And he's got him on the right path, and they're going to be a force to be reckoned with, I think, for several years to come. And so this is the experience they gain from this series, no matter whether they win a game or 2 games or somehow miraculously pull off an upset and move on or whatever it is. The experience they gain over the last week and this week and maybe into next week is invaluable. And I think it's only going to help them going forward.
I mean, it kind of reminds you mentioned the Suns of last year. But 2 years ago, remember in the bubble, the Suns ran off 8 in a row, came up just short of the playoffs. And then the next year, they turned that momentum into something. And last year, it was the Grizzlies who ran off a bunch of games in a row, won the play-in tournament, and they've turned that into a 2 this year. So there is a blueprint. I mean, in your own conference, just in the last 2 years, that you can turn it around quickly when you have the right nucleus and, as you say, the right coach. And Willie Green does deserve a ton of credit. Let's move on here on Bayou Bets and talk some NBA series prices overall, the NBA playoffs, how things are going. We'll start with the Western Conference. A couple of road teams win game 1. One of them was the Jazz. They were actually favored over Dallas. Luka Doncic, of course, injured out for the Mavericks in that series. And then the other one, the Timberwolves, surprised the Grizzlies in game 1. And that was the biggest upset in fact, that was the only, I believe, underdog winning outright of any game 1 was the Timberwolves winning in Memphis. As you see, Memphis still a slight series favorite at minus 140. Spencer, I want to get your thoughts here, but my initial reaction here too is I'm a little surprised Dallas is that high. And if they lose tonight without Luka, okay, you're down 2-0, you're going on the road, you're in big trouble. But they had a great chance to win that game 1. I don't know why anyone would think they don't have a chance to win tonight.
Yeah, and then there's a chance Luka could come back at some point in the series. It's not looking too good, though, as evidenced by the odds there. So I would probably stay away from it because, with Luka with that injury, it's pretty risky. But there could be a little value there. The one I really like, though, is the Grizzlies at minus 140. I feel like people are overreacting to that game 1. The Grizzlies have been so rock solid down the stretch. They're kind of due for a bad one there. I think they'll get back on track and win it in 6 games.
Jim, your thoughts on that one? Grizzlies rightfully still favored after losing game 1?
I still think they have a chance to win the whole thing. I think they're one of the top 3 or 4 teams in this entire tournament, whatever you want to call it. You can't call it playoffs because almost the entire NBA is in the thing. But I think they're one of the best teams, and I think that is a great price on the Grizzlies. And I'm like you. I also think that plus 550 on the Mavericks is kind of insane. With or without Luka, I think that they have a good chance to come back and beat the Jazz. I mean, everybody likes to overreact. Vegas does 2 times, and I think this is a case of that.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to put a quarter of a unit or something on the Mavericks, I'd be okay with that at plus 550. But you got to do it before tonight. They play game 2 tonight, and that price is obviously either going way up or way down, depending on how they do and maybe any Luka news that comes out. Warriors and Nuggets, anybody? I know a lot of people like the Nuggets going into game 1. I like the Warriors. That was my favorite bet of the weekend was Warriors minus 6.5. I love Nikola Jokic. He just doesn't have anybody around him. And they're playing a very deep team.
I know, right? Yeah, I picked the Warriors today for best bets, riding a hot hand there. Be it at home again. Curry came back, looked pretty good off the bench. So yeah, I don't see the Nuggets having much hope here. There's not enough support. And now it's Murray's done, and Porter is it maybe a chance, but even if he does, he'll be so limited. I don't think it's going to matter. So I would. yeah, I think Warriors win this one probably in 5 games.
Part of my feeling on the Mavericks, Jim, is that I don't like Utah's team very much this year.
I don't either.
I don't like the way they finished the season. They've had trouble in fourth quarters, and in fact, I would go as far to say that if the Pelicans somehow did pull off the miracle against Phoenix, which is a 1 in 100 chance at this point, but if they did,
that's actually a 1 in 15 chance.
Okay, well, I'm using the expression, not the math. Forgive me, because it's a betting show, so I should be better than that. But it's probably realistically more like 1 in 20. But let's just say they pull it off. I actually like them to beat Utah. I don't like Utah very much at all. If that's what the math is.
I'll just say this: if the Pelicans somehow win this series, I'm really liking my $7.10 bet. I'm just saying, they have as good a chance as anybody to. I don't like them. There are certain matchups I don't like them against, just because of who it is. I actually don't like them in a matchup against Memphis in any kind of way. So hopefully they would be able to avoid them if they were to get through. I don't know. I mean, this year is it's so weird. We had the full odds up, and it's so tough to pick an underdog because I think the Suns are clearly the best team. I mean, like clearly the best team. So I there's no value there to pick them. But it's been such a weird year, and I think the team that comes out of the West is going to be the best team, and I would take probably the team in the West no matter who they play in the East. But it's just a strange year.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Suns are the best team. I think a very close second is Boston, especially if they get Robert Williams back. If they get Time Lord back, I really like Boston's team. Let's take a look at the East prices.
Boston's going to get out of that series.
That was the best game of the weekend by far. Jason Tatum hitting the buzzer-beating layup for the Celtics to beat the Nets. The Nets get phenomenal performances from Kyrie Irving, including a double bird behind his head, which was, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, did you see the press conference?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then I don't let any of that stuff bother me. I don't react to it. Really? Okay. He played great. He played great. And Kevin Durant played great too. Yeah. And they still lose. So I don't know, like if those guys are going to play at that kind of a level and they're still coming up short, I bet the Celtics before the series. I feel pretty good about it. They're at minus 240. The other series, all pretty lopsided prices at this point. Spencer, 76ers, Raptors. That's the game 2, starts in a couple of hours. Any hope for Toronto to get back in that series? Is that an overreaction to game 1?
Oh yeah, I think there's a little bit of hope for them. I mean, Embiid didn't play all that great in game 1, but I think he'll bounce back tonight. They had Tyrese Maxey really step up, kind of a surprise there how game 1 went. I think it'll be a little closer, but I would think Philly will go into Toronto with momentum, which they'll need their guys even more because they'll be without their Thibault, the defensive specialist. He won't be able to play in Canada with his vaccine stuff. And the Bucks kind of struggled. I mean, they had good defense, but they didn't play quite as well as I was thinking against the Bulls. But yeah, they're just too overpowering.
Jim, any thoughts here? I do see a lot of overreaction. I'm not sure the Heat should be favored by that much. I'm not sure the Sixers should be favored by that much based on big game 1 wins, but we'll see.
Oh, I mean, the Hawks are in the same boat as the Pelicans. They had to fight through to get there. So I wouldn't touch either one of those numbers. I think the Nets are the best value on this board by far. I think they're going to win the series. So I completely disagree with you. I think they're going to win game 2. And if they do, they're in a fantastic position. And obviously you need to bet them now if you like that as well, because if they win game 2, then they're probably minus 110 or minus 140 to win the series. So if you were going to bet on the game, you're going to bet on the Nets, then I think your best bet is to bet on the series there at plus 200. I think that's where the value lies.
Let's do a little double or nothing on that po' boy. I get the Celtics to win this.
Okay, you can give me 2-1 then.
So, okay, well, triple or nothing, I guess it would be. Huh?
It would be triple, or I owe you a half.
I would owe you 3.
You would owe me a half po' boy, or I owe you, or you owe me 3. Either way, you're going to owe me 1.
No.
It's 2-1.
Then you're betting 2 to just a half of 1. That's 4-1.
No, you owe me 1.
Right. So I'm minus 1. If I lose,
All
I'd
right.
be -3. If I win, I'd be 0.
Sure.
Yeah, it'd be triple or nothing. All right, I'm gonna be. I need Boston to win, man. I don't really.
Or
like
you'd
the
owe me
Celtics.
a tenth of a po' boy or a bite. I don't know. I'm no
What are you talking
mathematician.
about? It's triple. It's plus 200.
It's
triple or
minus
nothing.
210 on the Celtics.
Oh,
Oh yeah,
well,
I'm not
the
giving. I'm not
juice.
giving you
you're
the
taking
minus.
the
I'm
Nets.
not.
The bite
I'm
of the
not giving
po'
you
boy
the
is the
juice.
juice.
Exactly.
All right,
I'm
well,
not giving you anything.
you still owe me a root beer from not Cash
All right,
of
well,
Carville. What do we call it? Big Bucks. So
I'll-
that
I'll-
can be the juice.
Well, it is juicy.
It is. It's delicious.
Go ahead. Move on.
All right. Okay. Tonight's games in the NBA, 3 games, similar spreads here. 76ers -7.5, Jazz -5, Warriors -7. Guru, you said you took the Warriors tonight as one of our best bets. I hadn't looked yet.
Right. Yeah, I think they do so well at home. That was another reason why I picked them. Is that they're fully healthy. They're great. They play great in their place, and the Nuggets just don't have enough support with the Joker. I mean, the Joker should do better tonight. He only scored 24 last time. I think he'll do a little more tonight, so it should be closer. But I still am comfortable taking Golden State. I think they'll win by about 9 or 10.
Jim, what's your bet of the night?
Mavericks +5 is my bet of the night. I think.
I like that.
But
yeah.
Again, overreaction. I agree with you. The Jazz aren't that great. I think the Mavericks going to play them a tight game. I think they win. Actually, I'm not sure what the money line is, but I would probably put a little bit on there. And then I'm kind of torn on the Raptors Sixers game. I don't necessarily think the Raptors are done, but this is kind of a weird series anyway. I think the Sixers are going to advance fairly easily, and then they'll be overpriced in their next matchup. And I kind of like the Nuggets. I just another overreaction. We see that the Warriors do play well at home. I agree, but this isn't the Warriors of 4 years ago. I just don't. I think they're going to struggle a little bit more than people think, and I also think Denver's a little bit underrated.
Yeah, I'm
Jordan.
gun shy on that Warriors as well. Spencer, I mean, I know I get what you're saying. I'm just a little gun shy. A lot of these game 2s, I think you're going to see teams that got blown out bounce back a little bit.
I agree.
Yeah, this Jordan Poole's was another thing that impressed me. He's been balling out lately. He's been really stepping up as far as like Klay Thompson's done fairly well, but Jordan Poole's basically been like the other splash brother. He's taken over as like their number 2 option. Well, he's been their primary option lately. Curry's been hurt. So between the 3 of them and Draymond Green's back. So yeah, I'm rolling with him.
We shall see. Lots of other stuff going on besides the NBA playoffs. Of course, we'll update you on Thursday with our thoughts and how things are going and the odds and everything else. At that point, the Pelicans will be back home and preparing for Game 3. Lots of other stuff going on this week. Speaking of Thursday, that's the opening day of the Zurich Classic of New Orleans down at TPC, Louisiana. And so the PGA Tour heads to the Bayou. And your favorites, actually, Xander Schauffele and Patrick Cantlay, who just lost in a playoff yesterday in South Carolina, they're at 8-1, along with Victor Hovland, Colin Morikawa. I will say, Jim, I look at this field. They got better golfers here than they usually do for the Zurich. Scotty Scheffler's in it. A lot of big names.
This might be the best field I've seen in 2 decades. It's outstanding, and I know I'm not a fan of these weird format things, so I hate that the Zurich has done that. But it seems to have drawn out some of the better golfers because they actually like to do things that are different. They've been grinding now for a couple months. They've already been through a major. They're headed towards another one. So this is just a way for them to, I guess, blow steam. So they do see some of the good better fields here, and they've been getting better and better and better. And this is an interesting leaderboard. I have not gone through my research yet to be able to tell you who I like out of here, but I mean, you look at some of these names, the Schauffele Cantlay thing, that's pretty cool. Hovland and Morikawa, outstanding. And Scotty Scheffler, I don't know who he's paired with. It's going to be tough to bet against him, right? I mean, hottest golfer on the planet.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk a minute about this. Handicapping this thing is a little tricky because you do have the different format, and that you got to handicap 2 players and kind of combine them. It makes it a lot different.
It makes it a lot different, but you have to realize it's not just the format of even your general 4-ball tournament, because it's a 4-ball for 2 of the days, and the other 2 days it's an actually 4-man scramble type thing where the first day and the third day they take the best ball, whoever hits the best ball, and then they go from there. And the second and the fourth day, if you make the cut and into Sunday, it's alternating shots. So you may have a team jump out to a nice lead, and then things change on day 2 because it's a different format almost. So it's interesting to see how it's going to play. Don't get me wrong. It'll be interesting to watch it. I'm looking forward to it. Again, the star talent, this thing is going to be fun, but I think they're going to have more fun with it than anything, at least until Sunday when they realize, oh, wait a minute, $1.5 million on the line for the winner or whatever it is. So then things may get a little bit different, but I'll be interested to see some of the reaction between some of these teams, especially the ones that have never teamed up before.
Yeah, I mean, it is fun. It's different. I'm with you. I prefer the traditional format, but I get why you do it, because you're sort of stuck on the calendar between the Masters and now the PGA in May.
Yeah,
which may have actually helped the Zurich, because the way the calendar used to be, these guys would take a month off after the Masters. Now you can't really do that because you have to play somewhere between the Masters and PGA. And so a lot of them are like, hey, I'd like to team up with my buddy, and we'll play 4 rounds of golf in New Orleans where the weather's usually pretty good, and see what happens. So it'll be a lot of fun.
We may have a special datitude on Wednesday. I'll have to talk to Uncle Big Nick and see. Maybe we'll do a breakdown of this field.
Yeah, I would love that. I would listen, and not just because it's my job. You're listening to Bayou Bets on bet.nola.com, brought to you by Caesars Sportsbook. I'd like to remind you, new users get $1,100 of bet insurance at Caesars Sportsbook by going to NOLA.com/Caesars. Or just sign up for the app in your app store and use promo code NOLACZR. First bet insured up to $1,100 for new users. So take advantage of that offer if you have not already. All right, it's time to talk some football. And a couple of exciting things happened here. Number one, the USFL started this weekend. The New Orleans Breakers played the Philadelphia Stars, and the New Orleans Breakers won 23-17. Defense looked pretty good. From what I saw, I watched about a quarter of it. They barely hit the over. They covered the spread. Did you guys watch this at all?
I watched the whole thing. I had it on the second TV part of the time. Well, I had it on the main TV till the son came and said, "What are we not watching basketball for on the main TV?" I'm like, "Okay, I'll switch it." It's his wedding weekend, so I let him switch it. But the defense was good. It was interesting. I thought that Slaughter looked pretty good at quarterback. They missed some scoring chances. Both teams did, but we talked about how the defenses were going to be ahead of the offenses in these games early on. Hence why the over-unders were so low. And the defense scored the first 9 points for the Breakers. So, they look pretty good. And from what I understand, from what I've been reading, the Stars are one of the better teams in the league. So maybe it's a bright season for the Breakers. I just can't get over the fact they're playing in Birmingham with no fans there. It's like it's COVID all over again.
It's a weird deal. I thought the same thing. They need Fox or USA or whoever it is needs to pipe in some crowd noise like they did during the pandemic.
Or go out into Birmingham and try to give some promotions to get people
free
to go.
Tickets or something. Yeah,
not just free tickets, I mean, you got all this money from TV. It would look so much better if they even had 10,000 fans in the stand. Give them free nachos too. Now it was Easter Sunday, which makes it worse. So I'm not sure why they picked this weekend to get this thing started. The same weekend as the first weekend of the NBA playoffs and Easter Sunday, and families aren't caring about this stuff. That's why I think Saturday night, and I know it was the hometown team, so there were more people there, and there were probably more people watching Saturday night. So it's almost a good thing this last game got postponed to tonight. I think they'll probably do a little bit better, but you can't do these things on a holiday weekend.
The whole thing's weird.
It is definitely weird.
And listen, people root for sports teams for all sorts of crazy reasons. I mean, essentially, we're rooting for laundry, right? The players change, the coaches change, the ownership even changes. but you still root for the same team.
Logos didn't change.
Uniform. Yeah, the logos and the uniform. But the team's not even playing in New Orleans, right? The whole season they're playing in Birmingham, just like the Philadelphia team's playing in Birmingham and the Las Vegas team's playing in Birmingham. It's weird, but it is doing pretty good TV numbers from what I understand. A lot of people are reading it on our website. The football I didn't think was bad.
The presentation, I watched all 3 games. Okay, so far I've watched at least most of all 3 games so far. The presentation is absolutely outstanding. The NFL should take tips from this.
I think they will.
The drones on the field are out. I mean, just it's great. It's great viewing. I love the way they do instant replay. I love the first down. It's 36 inches because they use technology like they should.
The first down thing should be in the NFL yesterday.
100%.
Like, come on, guys. If that's the only thing that comes out of this, then that's fantastic. Spencer, how much did you watch of the New Orleans Breakers re-debut?
I missed it, unfortunately, because of the time change. I thought it was going to be at 3, and then it was at my aunt's house, and then they flipped it to a different channel, and then it was forgotten about at that point. But yeah, I have to go back and watch some clips because I heard it was pretty good at a pick 6 to kick it off. So yeah, hopefully they'll offense will get a little better.
For safety.
Yeah, I mean,
for safety, so.
It was a pretty good game. I mean, honestly, it was a close game most of the way throughout. The level I thought was at least as good as a typical college game. Maybe not an elite college game, but a good one.
I thought the skill position levels were pretty good. I think in the trenches is where there's a major difference so far. So
yeah,
I think these linemen, there's a reason why they're not NFL linemen. But I think that the difference between a really good skill player and an elite skill player and an outstanding skill player or a very good one is razor thin, right? So I think there are players that are going to come out of this and play in the NFL. I think you'll see wide receivers for sure that play in this league play in the NFL. Quarterbacks
will get a chance. I think they will because how many bad quarterbacks are there in the NFL? If you have a guy
that's true.
who puts up big numbers, he's going to get a look anyway. Just because Trevor Simeon's in the NFL, like he still is. And so
trying to get me riled up on
these guys? I mean, honestly though, some of these guys who hang around the NFL, you're like, how does he still have a job? And if you get some guy throw for, I don't know how long the season is. It's 10 games, right?
10 games.
If you get some guy throw for 3,000 yards, he's gonna get a look in the NFL. I will say this is weird too. ESPN is doing absolutely zilch nothing zero with the USFL.
Yeah, I couldn't even find a score on
they
ESPN.
They're not putting the scores on the thing. The app, like if you open the ESPN app, you can go to other sports and scroll through, right? And there's chess scores and snooker scores.
And like ESPN's a mess.
You can't get USFL scores? Are we serious about that? Like, I understand they don't have the rights. I understand they are heavily invested in the NBA and that this thing could take 10% of their viewership from the NBA, and that's a big deal. Like, I get it. But at the same time, if you're the worldwide leader in sports, nothing? You can't even get a score? Like, I don't know about that.
Be careful what I say because I have a lot of attitude guests that come from the worldwide leader. So.
Well, but seriously, worldwide leader. Like, I don't criticize other media companies a lot, but I find that to be very, very funny. That
I find a lot of things they do to be very, very funny.
You could at least put the scores up. I mean, I'm not saying you've got to promote it, but I don't know. Anyway, the kind of football that ESPN will promote is the NFL. And the NFL draft is coming up. It's next week. It's next Thursday from Caesars Palace in Las Vegas, by the way. And we have something in the works where we might be able to do a show from Caesars Palace. I don't want to say it's in the works.
Whoa. What?
Yeah, I know. We'll have to. This is.
Are you spraying something on me right here?
Preliminary stages, very preliminary, nothing guaranteed. But it is at Caesars Palace, and Caesars, by the way, this is the second piece of big news I was talking about. They got approval to post NFL draft props in Louisiana, so we have NFL draft props on the app. And again, NOLA.com/Caesars. Sign up if you want to bet on the NFL draft. Aiden Hutchinson of Michigan has moved into pole position to be the first pick. Jacksonville Jaguars. It looks like they're going to pick a defensive end. It's either going to be him or Travon Walker. Either way, And if not them, then it looks like an offensive tackle. But usually,
It's
with
not going to be a
draft,
quarterback.
Yeah, with these draft, no, they're not. They can't do that to Trevor Lawrence already. They can't Josh Rosen it. Not with this year's class anyway. Like, usually the way these things work is when the odds start moving in one guy's favor, you got to jump on it before the number gets too big because somebody is reading between the lines and knows something.
Well, I always say, whatever Mel Kiper says, do the opposite. So if he thinks it's gonna be Hutchinson, I'll take Walker.
All right. Okay.
I'm thinking that the Evan Neal could be a good value there because there's a report that's saying that Doug Peterson's pushing for an offensive player to be the first overall pick. I don't expect that to happen. I'm thinking it'll still be Hutchinson, but if he could somehow sway the GM to go that direction, then Evan Neal would be a steal there at plus 1,400.
It's the Jaguars, so they very well might screw it up. Although interesting you say that, Spencer, because Ikem Ekwonu of NC State has passed Evan Neal as the most likely first offensive player taken in the draft just in the past couple of days in the odds. And so, again, these are a little bit different than handicapping games because somebody somewhere has a pretty good idea of what Jacksonville wants to do. Now, could they change their mind in 10 days? Sure, they could change their mind. But somebody somewhere knows what they're thinking right now, and chances are some of these sports books are going to figure that out. So it's very interesting. First cornerback taken. I bring this up for the LSU angle. Derek Stingley is listed second behind Sauce Gardner of Cincinnati. Just immediately my favorite name in the NFL, Sauce Gardner, supposed to be a top 10 pick. But Stingley, who was injured all of last year, had a good pro day, and he looks like he's going to be certainly taken in the first half of the first round.
Yeah. I was thinking that Stingley could maybe do it, but so far it's looking like that Sauce Gardner will probably go forward to the Jets. But again, we still got a lot of D's beforehand, so Stingley could be a decent value there.
And then
Sauce. We'll call him Sauce.
I believe Ahmad is his real first name, Ahmad Gardner, okay. But we like Sauce here. Pour on the sauce. Tons of props at Caesar Sportsbook, at the other sportsbooks. I mean, seriously, if you want to bet NFL draft, it's worth 30 minutes. Browse through what they've got because you'll find something you like. I mean, I just picked out a few of them here. Here's where we're at for NFL draft props. Some of these guys I list because I think the Saints may have some interest in them. There's a report the Saints are interested in Kenny Pickett to be their quarterback of the future. If that's the case, it looks like they're going to have to trade up because his pick over-under is 10.5. And although that is juiced to the over, he's still probably maybe 12, 13. The Saints are picking at 16 and 19. So that means they may have to trade up, Jim.
I don't know. I lost too much money this weekend to bet on NFL draft props. So I had a really bad week. After two really good ones, I had a really bad week. But sure, I mean, for the people, it is how it goes. These are things that I'm probably going to look more at next week. My mind is kind of still in the beginning of the NBA playoffs and golf, and I haven't really had enough time to be educated about where people might go. But I think I will say this though. I don't think Kenny Pickett goes in the top 10. I just don't think so.
I don't think so either. Well, I say that though, and Spencer, you can chime in on this too because Spencer's
quarterbacks seem to drop unless they're like super studs.
Sometimes the last couple days before the draft, all of a sudden people freaking fall in love with these quarterbacks. And then you start getting people trading. Oh, I got to take Malik Willis at number 6. I got to take Kenny Pickett at number 8. And you're like, and 3 years later, you look back at this, and like 1 out of 5 of them was actually a good idea. For every Patrick
I don't like Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett. I don't think either one of those guys are going to be long-term starters in the NBA and the NFL. So,
but I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like for every Patrick Mahomes, there's 5 of those guys who you're like, why did you trade up to take Blake Bortles? What are you doing? Like what did you do that for? And it seemed crazy at the time, but they get stars in their eyes, and the day before the draft, they start. Well, somebody else, the Eagles are going to trade that guy. By God, we got it.
That's because PR team, the PR people for some of these NFL teams do an excellent job of throwing, just like the Saints are not interested in Kenny Pickett. They're throwing all this junk out there, so people will, Saints want Kenny Pickett. It's just like when you're in a fantasy draft, okay? You know as well as I do. If you've been in a fantasy league long enough, there are about 2 or 3 guys who are competing to win almost every year, at least most fantasy leagues that I've been in. And whoever is thrown out, I'm in an auction league. And whenever a name comes out, and I mean, I'm not trying to brag upon myself, but if I bid on a guy, then 2 guys who didn't want anything to do with this guy start bidding just because they think that I want him. So you know what I do now? I bid on everybody. I throw a bid. Every single player that is thrown out, at least in the first 50, 60 players, Spencer knows what I'm talking about. You just throw a bid out on them because they don't know who you want. Oh, Jim wants him. Oh, he wanted the last guy. And so the Saints are doing, I guarantee you the Saints are throwing that news out there that they want Kenny Pickett.
You start throwing names out who you know people. Oh, this guy's a Giants fan, so I'm going to throw out a Giants player.
Exactly.
Stuff like that.
That's why I wear my Cubs jersey to fantasy drafts and hardly ever get any Cubs because I don't draft a lot of Cubs when it comes to fantasy. But if a Cub comes out, I'm going to bid on him early, and they're going to think I want him. And then the next thing you know, 2 other idiots are bidding on him, like shooting him through the roof. It's the best show in town.
Absolutely, Spencer. So more likely, I think, and probably more reasonable, a better idea is for the Saints to take a wide receiver in the first round, unless they sign one of these guys before then. If they take a wide receiver, let's say that Drake London from USC will probably be gone by the time pick 16 rolls around. Didn't include him on here. Jameson Williams over under pick 11.5, but you see it's juiced minus 180 to the over. And then Chris Olave at 17.5. Traylon, I will tell you this: Traylon Burks of Arkansas is the guy I like the best. If I'm the Saints, I take him somewhere along the line. He's one of these big, tall possession receivers. Perfect
Ohio State, baby.
Perfect counterpoint to Michael Thomas. You put Traylon Burks on the other side. But Spencer, you're the expert. Of those 3 guys, if we'll narrow it down to those 3, who are you taking if you're the Saints at either 16 or 19?
I would go ahead and take Chris Olave. I can't believe that Jameson Williams is. I'm gonna actually after we get off the show, I'm gonna go bet the under on that right now. Like there's no way Jameson's gonna go over pick 11.
No, wait a minute. If you think he's going to last later than 11.5, let's just be clear. You have to bet the over. Because that's what's confusing about this. You think his pick number will be higher than 11.5. So I'm glad you brought that up because if you think Jameson Williams will be the 15th pick, you need to bet the over.
Okay. Oh, well then that makes sense. Then okay. Well, I'll still, even with a juice like that, I'll still bet the over. I don't think there's any way he goes under that. But yeah, I got confused. I think the higher pick like.
It is confusing, but you got to think in terms of the number, right?
Right. But anyway, back to Olave. The reason I like him a lot is because he got the Ohio State connection, and sure Michael Thomas would get along with him, kind of take him under his wing, and also I just really like what I see from him on film. I've seen his route running, his speed. He seems like he's got it all, and would be a perfect complement to MT as far as he could stretch the field a little more. And then rip off the big plays, take it to the house type thing. I like Traylon Burks too, but he's not quite as fast. Might struggle a little bit with separation. But Olave, I feel like Olave checks all the boxes.
I'm gonna plant my flag for Traylon Burks.
I wouldn't be mad at Burks. Yeah, I'll take him over Jameson. I'm just coming off the ACL and he's too one-dimensional. He's too much of a deep ball specialist. I wouldn't draft him in the first round.
And Traylon Burks, by the way, his draft stock has slipped just a little bit this week. There's some reports coming out that he showed up to his pro day out of shape and this and that. And I'm not too concerned about that. I mean, in fact, if I'm a team, if that means he drops from 15 to 19 and I can grab him at 19, if I'm the Saints, then better for me. I'll get him in shape when he gets here. I mean, I'm not too concerned about that sort of stuff. So anyway, I'll tell you what we got coming ahead on bet.NOLA.com. On Thursday, we will have At the Book. We will talk more Pelicans and Suns. Of course, we'll be getting ready for Game 3 at the Smoothie King Center on that show. That'll be on Friday night. And then we'll talk more NFL draft in the next week as well. And sprinkle in some USFL and some Zurich Classic. We'll have live Zurich Classic odds for you on Thursday. and we're rolling, guys. We got lots to come up.
Yeah, and we
Yes,
got
indeed.
go ahead, Spence.
Oh yeah, I'll say yeah, for sure, yeah, because we got the drafts coming up, and these NBA playoffs. Hopefully, the Pels can take a game or two and keep on rolling, making this thing interesting. They keep on. I love their energy. Willie Green, and he's keeping them in. It's CJ McCollum. They've got the pieces to push Phoenix, and next year is going to be a fun ride with hopefully Zion back.
I'm really intrigued to see what the Pelicans' futures odds will be like when the NBA is over for this year. They start posting next year's futures odds. That'll be fascinating. Let's do final thoughts. Jim Derry.
Great weekend as long as you didn't make the same bets that I made. It was a fun weekend. Again, last personal note on this, my son got married Saturday. It was a fantastic time. So maybe that's why I didn't do so well, because it was just like, I got to bet on this. I don't know that I've ever bet with a tuxedo
not a good
on
idea.
before.
Yeah.
So, but I did, and it was fun. But we enjoyed the weekend. But Datitude should be good this week. I think we will have a special Datitude on Wednesday to preview the Zurich, and then talking a lot about the NFL draft. And I know that next week I'm looking for trying to get a special guest on before the draft. We'll see. It hasn't happened yet, but I know I'm going to have Adam Chernoff on next week. We've seen him from Covers.com, and he's
love Adam.
Some of the things that we talked about today, he'll be on talking about next week. So got a great week, a couple weeks of Datitude coming up.
Fantastic. Spencer, the Guru Urquhart, what's your final thought?
Yeah, mine would be about the Saints draft. Just with Kenny Pickett, okay, if he falls to 16 and you really like him, then I won't be excited. I'll be upset, because I'd much rather left tackle or receiver. But okay, if you do it, it's all right. I'll accept it. But it better not trade up for Pickett or Willis. That's going to make me sick to my stomach. I might shut the draft off if that happens. I'm going to be so upset.
I don't like that idea either. Yeah.
No, yeah, that would just reek of desperation. Jameis wouldn't be happy. I mean, these guys just aren't. They're just not worth it. I mean, maybe like the Patriots last year, they let Mac Jones fall to them, and that's worked out so far. So if he falls to you, yeah,
second round, man. Matt Corral in the second round. Could do worse.
It's possible he could fall. I'm thinking maybe Pittsburgh takes a shot on him at 20, but they need O-line help badly. So they have Corral could easily fall to the second round.
Or you use one of your first round picks and then trade the other one back to get a second and a third or something. And
then that Philadelphia trade looks just wonderful.
I mean, it depends on what you get. And honestly, what it really depends on is who you pick and how they do. But that's anyway. Next Monday, try to get Jeff Duncan or maybe Luke Johnson. Haven't had him on the show in a long time to talk some NFL draft and what the Saints' strategy might be. So yeah, and I would say my final thought is this: if you are in the sports betting game, one thing I really like doing is just look at baseball lines, and you could say the same thing for hockey. By the way, this is the first time hockey's.
There's money to be made in baseball.
There is. This is the first time hockey's ever been mentioned on the show. Favorites in the NHL went 22-0 this weekend. 22-0. That's statistically impossible, but it happened. So 22-0. We'll see if that continues tonight. But yeah, baseball. I mean, watch the lines from when they come out the night before to what they are an hour before game time. You can kind of see where money's going, and sometimes it doesn't make a lot of sense on the surface. Those are the ones you want to go do a little research on. A lot of times you can make some money. One of them I like tonight, Astros home opener. Like you think, the Astros are back home after a 9-game road trip. They're going to win. They're going to be pumped up for their fans. I like the Angels tonight. I'll fade them. Angels at plus 130. So that's one, that I think is worthwhile. And I'm doing a search here.
Yeah, I don't see it. I just looked at it. I didn't see it.
No, don't see anything on the Bucks. All right. Well,
have to be for the next show.
We're about to end the show, Scott. What did the Bucks do? What is the move we're missing here? Let's see. We'll extend the show.
Poteet. Type in Poteet.
We'll extend the show by 30 seconds for Scott Poteet to tell us what the Bucks have done, because I don't see. They promoted.
No offense to Scott Poteet, but if we're using him as a source, we're probably going.
Director of Rehabilitation and Performance was promoted today. Is that what we're talking about?
Well, they announced the match for this year. The match is going to be Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers versus Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes.
And you want to talk about some degenerate stuff? You're betting on quarterbacks playing golf.
I'll do it.
Okay. Well, that's why you have the job that you have. Until next time, everybody, NOLA.com/Caesars to sign up for the Caesars Sportsbook app. New users get free bet insurance on their first bet. That's Spencer the Guru Urquhart and Jim Derry. We'll see you Thursday at 4 o'clock for At the Book. Until then, I'm Zach Ewing. Have a good day.